Now, why is this so important? I think there are 4 reasons this is extremely important. Creating environments where gospel air is breathed propels sanctification because people understand that they're able to run to God and not from God when they fall, when they stumble, when they screw up, when they fail. Where you don't consistently preach that our justification before God has nothing to do with us and everything to do with Jesus Christ, you in turn teach your people that you must look this way, and every place will define what this way is. All right? So the funny thing, what I've learned is my generation has a tendency to point to suit and ties and go, oh, you make it look like that. But what we've done is just say, no, it's a button-up shirt and jeans. So you begin to make the arguments that in the end aren't gospel-centered. And so you have people doing a lot of things to earn the favor of God instead of understanding that the favor of God is built on the sacrifice of Christ in the cross. So gospel must be the air that our people breathe. I think you have to come back to it week in and week out. I have a staff member here. Most of our staff will watch this. If you're a podcaster, there ain't a week that goes by that I don't want to come back to the fact that he made him who knew no sin to be sin on our behalf, that we might become the righteousness of God in him. We get his righteousness. He takes on our sin, and that's the only leg we have to stand on. No other leg, no other boast, no one. You will not. First of all, I don't think he's going to ask the question, why should I let you into my heaven? If he does, you will say nothing about you. I can guarantee it. If humans fall on the ground like dead men at the sight of angels, you before the triune God of the universe aren't going to go, well, I never saw any rated R movies that weren't about your crucifixion. Well, if I had to be straight, I never cussed unless it was an invented cuss word, a Christian cuss word, ding fod, all right, or in my car when no one else saw me. If you're not going to talk about you. Are you tracking with that? So I want to burn this into your head, all right? The Bible clearly teaches that at your worst, you're sinful, but when you're at your best, you're sinful. That your righteous acts reek to God. Like when you nail it. Like when you just wake up at 5:45 a.m., all right, and immediately dive into the scriptures and you every act of obedience imaginable that you could think of, that you've heard, that you've been guilted into, like you nail all of it. The Bible still says, without Jesus, that's filthy. Without Jesus, that's disgusting. Without Jesus, that reeks in the nostrils of God. Yeah. So if you could get that in your mind and heart, you'll run to Jesus a lot more. Gospel air sends people to Jesus and not away from him. The illustration I most often tried to use is, if you have any children, what I learned with our first child is that walking isn't usually a decision of the will. It's kind of like a physiological marvel. So all 3 of my kids, maybe all kids aren't like this, but the kids that I've seen, they have giant heads and tiny bodies. And so what ends up happening is they pull themselves up onto a coffee table or something and then they'll start to bounce, okay? What ends up happening is they grow confident and they'll let it go, and because God's designed them with just fat heads and tiny bodies, their little necks can't support it, so the head falls forward, and now physics takes over. Now we have momentum, okay? And so the kid has to stick a foot out to not die, and then they step, and fall on the ground. And here's what happens. When that happens, regardless of how many kids you have, it's celebrated. Like there's this crazy celebration that occurs. The kid's walking. They're walking. Doesn't matter. Step, 2 steps, maybe even just a shake and a fall, all right? Blood coming out of their eyes. Twitter, pictures, Facebook, pick the kid back up, set him back down. Come on, do it again. There's this epic celebration that rivals the party you had after your wedding when your kid's fat head forces them to take 2 steps out. Now, never in my 36 years of life have I seen a parent see the kid take 2 steps and go, idiot. Baby, this is on you, because my family, we're walkers, all right? That's straight on you, all right? Never seen it. So, okay, I know this is funny, but I want to rein us in here. I feel like I'm a little bit out of control. What a picture this is. What a picture of this is of our God in the heavens because of Christ going, he's walking. She's walking. And the accuser going, oh no, they're not walking. That was a fall. That was a stumble. That was a pathetic attempt of walking. That's their fat head carried them forward. They stumbled in obedience. They didn't choose it. And then our God going, oh no, by Christ, they're walking. And when you celebrate the steps, and you celebrate that by grace, the God of the universe celebrates us as his children, he being our advocate. Now, all of a sudden, you've created an environment where confession and repentance is the norm, and people aren't afraid to come clean of what's really going on in your life. Because if you're a pastor, show me your hand again if you're a pastor. It's been my experience in pastoring 8 years now. Our church has grown very large through nothing but the grace of God. Never sent out a mailer, never sent out, God's just doing what God's doing there. I've literally tried at least every other week to preach a sermon I just call a space maker, all right, where I just say, listen, I don't think you're saved. I think you'd have a hard time convincing me you're saved. I think a lot of you are going to end up in hell, all right? Peace. And then sit down, and then we literally have a little bit more room the next week. And so we call those space makers. So we haven't tried to, per se, build out the church, but God's just kind of done that. And it's been surprising to me how often I find myself in Camelot. You know what I mean by Camelot? That it looks beautiful on the outside, but as soon as you get on the inside, the queen is sleeping with Lancelot and Civil War is about to rip the place apart. And so I can't tell you how often there was this appearance of godliness, and behind it was adultery, addiction, betrayal, rage, abuse, theft, and on and on and on I could go. Once again, with the staff member here who sat in on a lot of those meetings, God help me, just not even surprised anymore when a guy that I thought was godly in the end is cheating on his wife or abusing his kids, or it's just not a surprise. But if you create an environment where it's okay to not be okay, you create an environment where the gospel is breathed in and out constantly through sermon, through song, through what you're teaching children, through what you come back to it over and over and over and over again from every angle given to us in the scriptures. You create an environment where sanctification occurs.